What's good? Um, it's later night today. It's because I'm off, and it's the end of the month, so I was like, I can wait till the end of the day to do this. You know, I'm just camping. That's me procrastinating. Um, Anywho, though, hope y'all had a good day or whatnot. We're going over John 16 to John 20, and overall, it talks about pretty much Jesus dying, and him fulfilling the scripture and overall. Pretty much it starts out with him telling his disciples and praying to Jesus pretty much and saying, it's time. It's time, literally. And then keeping it going, you come to chapter 17, where I highlighted a few things, and pretty much I highlighted verse 9. I am praying for them. I am not praying for the world, but for those whom you have given me, for they are yours, right? And he's talking to God here, or his father. Sorry, I mean, they're both God, but he's talking to the father here, and he's pretty much saying that he's not praying for everybody. Well, wait, pause. Go back. See. I'm still trying to get a grip on it to an extent. But he's not praying for the world, which Satan controls, because if we go all the way back to when Satan was tempting him, he put up on the mountain and was like, yeah, everything you see, it belongs to me. And like, I'll give you all of this, right? And Jesus is like, nah, right? And I think it's pretty much a reflection of, hey, the world is gone at this point, because once Jesus goes up, he's going to come back down with, Jerusalem, pretty much, or I should say heaven, right? The holy place, paradise, right? So he's literally saying, yeah, I'm not praying for the world. I'm praying for who you have given me, which is us, the Gentiles, the Jews, the whatever, whatever you are, Jewish, Arabic, Indian, Asian, Chinese, it's the same thing as Asian, I'm tripping, American, Brazilian, etc. All of it. He's here for all of us, right? Because we are Lord's, right? And we are His. Either way, even if we don't think we are definitely still God's, one way or another. And then I also highlighted, I made known to them your name, and I will continue to make it known that the love with which you have loved me may be in them and I in them. Just goes to show how much love the Lord has for us, right? Going into chapter 18, Peter denies Jesus 3 times again. What can you do though? And they actually end up confirming here, at least in John, the book John, right? That Peter is the one that pulled out the sword, right? Because I knew Peter was the one that pulled out the sword, but I was like, where is this confirmed at, right? And it is kind of crazy how at one moment he was willing to fight tooth and nail, slay people for this, Because I mean, if you're cutting off an ear, what else are you cutting off, right? Um, he got to this point, and all of a sudden, once he's behind enemy lines and he sees his savior pretty much getting humiliated, he's like, nah, I'm not that man. The switch up is insane. But he ends up coming back, and I can't say I wouldn't have done the same, Um, even though I hope I wouldn't have, right? And then you get to Jesus talking to Pilate. I mean, honestly, like Pilate didn't see anything wrong with like Jesus at all. He's like, why are y'all gonna punish this man? He hasn't done nothing, And it is pretty much just it, because if you have this man who isn't a believer telling the Jews, who are literally the saved people in this case, right? They literally traveled for 40 years, literally got a law passed for them from God Himself, are descendants of Abraham, and everything, and they're the same people. And this non-believer is saying, "Hey, there's nothing wrong with Jesus, right?" And and they still want to kill him is kind of crazy. And they end up releasing, well, in here it says a robber for John, but in the other books, if I'm not mistaken, in Luke, it said he was a murderer. Uh, Barabbas, Barbas, however you say it. But releasing a robber or a murderer or a criminal in general compared to Jesus is all kinds of messed up, right? And it just goes to show how twisted people really can be, right? And I remember there's one more thing I was trying to say here. Oh, you seeing the discrepancy between the two books, at least in a historical context, really does show how legitimate it really is, right? And not to say that it couldn't have said he was a robber over there too, but maybe the lack of information in all of these, because it's not the exact same. It's told with extra details here, less details here, more details there, less details here. Same with how Peter literally was talking about, hey, you know, or not talking about hay, but like how Peter sliced off the ear, and it was confirmed here, but in all the other books of the gospel, they didn't say Peter sliced off the ear, right? And yeah, I just find it interesting, especially from a historical perspective, because it has discrepancies that it makes it more accurate, pretty much, right? At least that's my understanding of history as a whole, right? Um, and then in chapter 19, pretty much at the beginning, Pilate and Jesus have a separate conversation, and Jesus is like, "You really have no authority over me because God only gave you an authority, right?" And yeah, then he went outside and was like, "I really see nothing wrong with this, guys." And they're like, "Yeah, it is what it is. Behold your king, the king of Jews." And he writes it on a board and whatnot. And the Jews were like, "Nah, say he claims to be the king of Jews." And he's like, "Nah, I wrote what I wrote." Right? It goes to show, like, Pilate, this non-believer, is more of a believer than the people Jesus came for, right? Which in hindsight 2020, no, he didn't come for just them. He came for everyone. Um, he came for the ones that weren't saved, right? And yeah, and then they took him to Golgotha, the place of the skull. Uh, and then he pretty much fulfilled the prophecy from there, right? And then they poured the sour wine into his mouth, and he was like, "It is finished," then died. And then I find this a really cool detail. Going back, if y'all remember in John 3, Nicodemus, I think that's his name. Nicodemus, right? The one Jesus was talking about how, you know, you cannot be saved if you are not reborn in the spirit, right? And I find it interesting how he is one of the people wrapping up Jesus, you know, and it's funny enough because he comes back. He is reborn, right? Or not reborn, but revived, right? Uh, and I think, especially if I'm thinking from like Nicodemus' perspective here, studying the word, and literally he has to talk with Jesus, and then well, I don't know how long this period was, but maybe a year or some change, a little younger than that, or longer than that. He's like, sees this happen. He's like, "Oh, Jesus came back. This is what he's talking about," right? It starts to click. Yeah, but I find it like a really cool cameo almost, right? And a lot of interconnecting. And pretty much keep going. And, they put him in the tomb. Mary comes in the morning, or not in the morning, but on Sunday, and sees him and is like, "Oh, this must be a garden or whatnot. Tell me what you done with his body." And Jesus is like, "Mary." And he's like, "What?" And she's like, "Wait, wait, 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 wait. That's Jesus." Right? And nothing's like a mother's love for real, you know? I mean, even Jesus still called her mother, even though he's Jesus, right? Which is God, right? But yeah, and then pretty much Jesus appears to his disciples and doubting Thomas. I mean, still, I could see his perspective, his thought process, but I mean, everybody's coming to tell me that Jesus came back, and I'm like, I gotta touch it in order to believe, right? Yeah, I guess it is kind of a little, it leaves a little bit of sour taste in the mouth, right? Like almost wanting to tell you, I told you so type deal, right? And Jesus saying, have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. That kind of takes the cake, right? It's more like a burn, right? But yeah, that ends pretty much chapter 16 through 20. And overall, great chapters. I wasn't, it's just, it's always depressing to just read it, but it's also very invigorating in a sense of like, Jesus fulfilled the prophecy, and he comes back, he literally comes back, and the only person in history to be actually confirmed. Well, I guess some people will say he wasn't confirmed or revived, but if you have a testimony of all these people saying he's revived, then yeah, he was revived or he never died. But seeing as they literally crucified him, and literally stabbed him in the side. And I don't think there's any proof of anybody surviving both of those at the same time. It's safe to say that Jesus came back, which proves he's kind of the Lord. So it's either you take the low chance that, oh, history in this case is wrong, then how many other things in history is wrong, right? That's the case, right? It's like, it comes down to things like, is Alexander the Great real? If I'm not mistaken, he wasn't even written really down or whatnot. He wasn't confirmed until like 400 years later or something like that. I might be wrong about that. Don't fact check me. I'm gonna stop. Please do fact check me. But to go more into it, it's not even just that. It's just, does your great 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 grandfather exist? How do you know they exist? That's what I'm saying. It's simple as that, right? And in this case, that the history can't be trusted, then how many other histories can't be trusted, right? So that's what I leave you with. Go read the word. Deuces.